There were a number of challenges associated with the work in Little Bay. It is an estuary. It's very tidally influenced. So we have a 1-mile cable crossing going from west to east across the bay, but we have tide running north to south along the tide cycle. So on a flood tide, tide would move south across the project route, and then on an ebb tide, it would flow north. So one of our biggest challenges on the project was to be able to model for that tide cycle and then time the work accordingly so that we could have a predictable mixing zone boundary to keep ourselves in compliance with water quality criteria. The cable crossing spanned about 2 months or so. The jet plow technology spanned a course of 3 weeks. It was 8 days and evenings of installation work over a 3-week span. And then in the nearshore areas, we installed the cable using hand jetting technology, and that spanned about a month of time. The project took place in the fall, so there wasn't a lot of boat traffic, but there are, of course, residents all along Little Bay, so it was a highly visual project. We had a total of 6 monitoring vessels during the installation of the cable during the jet plow process, and those vessels had to sample 23 monitoring stations continuously throughout the jet plow process and collected over 24,500 analytical samples. So there had to be very careful communication between the environmental vendor, Normando, and the laboratories to get those samples back to the lab and analyzed on time. We had an independent environmental monitor who was really the hub of the communications on the project, who was stationed with the cable installer and had direct lines of communication with the cable installer and the environmental team. And that monitor would get data in real time. The other component on the project we had was the use of drones that gave us the location of the sediment plume at any given time. The drone operators would convey that information to the environmental monitoring team, which would then position vessels in areas to intercept that plume and give us real good data during the course of the project. The collaboration on the project was fantastic, and we had a lot of hardworking, dedicated people who really embraced the spirit of teamwork, which is really what the project needed to be successful. We had to rely quite a bit on our consultants and the installers. They helped us through the planning stages and the siting and permitting stages of the project. At Eversource, New Hampshire, we don't install cables every day, so we really did need to rely on their expertise and their knowledge to help us make this project successful. This was an important endeavor for Eversource. Building a brand new transmission line to help potential in the Seacoast area was very important for our company. And it creates new challenges. Whenever you're building a new line in a corridor that doesn't have an existing line, obviously the scrutiny that you'll face from the public is much greater than work we typically do in our existing corridors. It required a lot of perseverance on everybody's end. There was almost no facet of the project that went easily, so it was a lot of trying and trying again to get the project across the finish line.